All right, good evening, everybody. Again, my name's Quentin, and I am your loan signing coach. So tonight we're going to go over a commercial packet. So this is a loan that I actually did, say about 3 weeks ago. So I saw it. I thought it'd be something cool to kind of share with you guys in case you've never done a commercial packet. They're really not, I guess, thick in as far as how many pages, but they can be intimidating because it has some verbiage that you normally don't see on a traditional refi. So I want to share this with you guys. So pull up the screen here. All right. So this again is a commercial packet. So this lady was actually in town for business, I believe, or maybe on vacation. Um, and she um, was the only one or the only partner of the business that wasn't back in Oregon available to sign. So they sent me to her hotel to get her squared away. So up first, this is the addendum to the real estate sales agreement. So this form, they typically have, if there's any type of changes to the initial sales agreement that everybody's already signed off on or has agreed to. So you can see the options they give you: real estate sales agreement, seller counteroffer, buyer counteroffer, or other. So for her, their addendum or change was a simple change of date. So the change of date was extended until the 31st of May. So we actually did her part, I believe, on the 26th to give enough time for documents to make it back to Oregon for them to be able to execute out there on the West Coast. So this one's real simple. Usually, again, it'll tell you exactly what they're changing or what they're amending, so that the customer is aware. And then obviously you have the buyer sellers that'll sign off down here at the bottom. All right, so this does not require any type of um, acknowledgement or anything of that nature. All right. So this here, as we have seen on other refis or HELOCs or seller or purchase packets, is this a settlement statement. So again, this is going to be an itemized listing or itemized, I guess, form that's going to give them all the numbers that make up this loan or this deal that they're doing. So as you can see, the purchase price for this one is rather large at 2.28 million. Um, and I guess in terms of commercial, it's really not that expensive, but for us, it looks like a lot. So you see some prorations they have here as far as the rent. They've prorated that for that month of May. Again, this gives them time for them to close out this deal. Okay. And then they also have the prepaid June rent. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think they may be selling the property, but they're going to remain in it as tenants. So I've actually have a friend who has quite a few businesses in South Carolina. And that's what he did. Um, Essentially, he flipped his commercial property. So he spent like 200,000 on it. He has I think it's a Jimmy John's in there, and he a few years later turned around and sold it for like 1.2 million. But he's going to keep his business there. So he's now a tenant versus being the owner. So I believe this is what they're doing as well. Next, we have the payoff. So let you know who all they're paying off: the principal, the interest, also conveyance fee. So you'll see a lot of little nickel and dime fees when it comes on the commercial side, as you do on the retail side or what we call residential side. Prepayment fee as well. So that's pretty hefty. So typically with commercial loans, they do have a certain period of time that you have to keep the loan. That way, the bank that has lent that money out can make their money. You know, because sometimes they'll waive fees and pay things for the customer in order to get that deal done. So now, if they do that and pay that out of pocket, they want to know that that customer is going to remain with them for enough time for them to make some money off of it. So if not, there is a early prepay fee. So again, theirs is pretty rough at $69,000. So all right, next we have, just like we do on our residential, we have escrow fee, the owner policy for title insurance, excuse me, the homeowner insurance, excuse me, not homeowners, but um, insurance. Oof, insurance coverage. All right. And we've got small fee here, government lien search. So this is some title fees that they're charging them for making sure that there's no type of liens on the home, or excuse me, on the commercial property. This here is, looks like this is an early release of earnest money. So looks like they had them put down about 10,000 or so for this deal. Now, this next one is kind of interesting. I didn't really notice this at the time of closing, but when I was looking through the packet, I was like, what? As you can see here, BankServe, their fee, $1,200. So I'm thinking, all right, so they gave me 120. What they do with the rest of it? But what I think they did, because it's commercial, they get paid much more. And then if there are any other partners that are not able to meet at the same location, then that way they can allot for notaries like myself to go out and meet those individuals and get those documents signed. So again, you're not going to see that amount typically anywhere close to that on a residential refi purchase or whatever. So they had a good day, in my opinion, there. All right, got some property taxes. So as you can see, the numbers are much higher than what you're going to typically see. But again, this particular person I met with, they really didn't really care to look through the numbers because they've already looked through this. All of the other managers of the company have signed off on this. So at this point, it's kind of moot for them to kind of go line by line. Now here is just for some information for commission. So you can see the broker for both sides, they did pretty well for this one deal, 57,000 in commission. So if you're looking at something else, you know, to do it outside of the notary, commercial real estate is it pays very well. It pays very well. All right. Again, we've got our final numbers here, and then the balance due to seller. So it looks like they'll be walking away with that 665 in profit for that selling. And into the settlement page. So this is where all the managers that are listed with the LLC will sign off at. All right. So up next, this is just this is from their bank. This is just I believe a commercial loan servicing, or kind of like a readout that they have of the fees on behalf of the bank. Now this one typically doesn't have, it's a demand letter, like a payoff letter. It typically doesn't have a spot for anybody to sign. So a lot of times they'll have this read and approved stamp that they'll stamp on there, just kind of a makeshift signature spot for the individual signing. So all that should be the same. And down here, we just have wire instructions, which again, is typically not going to be pertinent to your closing. All right, and here's just another document that was in the packet that they're asking for the customer to read and sign off on. So this is just stating there's no security deposits to transfer over. Some of this stuff is like email. So I've seen that a lot, where it could be an email conversation where agreements were made via email. And so they'll print those off and they'll put that read and approve stamp on there. So they can sign off on that, just saying again that they have read it and they acknowledge that the information is correct. All right, this one looks like it's just another letter. This one's talking about proration. So again, this is just another email conversation that they were having. And again, they asked my client to read over it and to sign off on it saying that they did approve of that. All right, so this is the sale escrow instructions. So some more instructions from the title company, so they'll know how everything's going to go down. So it says balance of funds to close escrow in the form of a wire transfer or cashier's check payable to. Let them know who to send it out to. Just make sure all these bullet points that they have received this information prior to closing and that they've had a chance to read over it and they know exactly what they're doing. And again, when you're dealing with commercial clients, I've never had anybody who got to the table and was surprised. They are very thorough and they make sure that they know all this information up front before they get to close. So it's not going to be anything like what we may see when we're doing a refi, where a customer may not have got their disclosures in time. On the commercial side, they definitely get this. They make sure all the numbers are right before they close. All right, and it looks like this is just a policy of title, so title insurance for the property itself. So these are just some general boilerplate instructions for the title company. So again, this is nothing that you guys really have to worry about. And then, so this particular one, I believe there wasn't a lot of things that she had to sign because she wasn't the main. Someone else is going to be signing off on behalf of the company, but it wasn't her. So this one we actually didn't even have to address. All right, and then here is where all your managers will sign again, saying everybody does agree. Any questions for me thus far? No questions. All right. So this is just continuation of general provisions. So this general provisions, again, you'll see this in your refis. Especially if they're using, I believe, Fidelity, they have this. It's kind of just a common form that you'll see. It just goes over deposit of funds. But again, nothing that you have to dive into. We've got prorations and adjustments, utility, possession, also right of cancellation. So right for them to cancel the escrow, it has to be done in writing. It has to be within 2 working days. So, but typically this, again, is not something that is going to be a real bit of concern for them. Right of resignation. So there's 10-day written notice that they have for the escrow holder. So we'll skip through this because, again, this is not a lot of information. I don't want to bunk you guys down with stuff that you really don't have to be concerned with. So again, for the general provisions, you'll have with all the managers will sign off on that.
And when they're signing off as managers or president or whatever, do they typically put their titles?
So it depends on the title company. For her, I believe, I don't think she did. But sometimes they'll give you instructions, letting you know if they want that verbiage or not. I mean, honestly, it can't hurt.
Okay.
Especially like for her instance, she lives in Oregon, so
yeah, you don't want to go chasing after.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't have to, matter of fact, I lied to you. I think I did have her sign manager because that was my concern, was like, if they wanted that verbiage, I didn't want for me to hold up anything.
So basically either find out for sure ahead of time or just as a backup, have them sign it anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
Just have them sign it anyway. That way it's covered. Because they don't need, it's not a biggie because they already have verified their position with the company. So
right, that makes sense.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Great question. All right. So now, if by chance they have not already received that preliminary report, again, usually they'll have a copy of that preliminary report in the closing documents if they want to glance at it. But again, guys, I'm gonna tell you, these people, I hate to say, let me say this: some of them come across as if they're super busy. So, and that's not always the case, but I think some people like to feel like they're busy and important. And so that has been my experience with the commercial loans, is that they really are busy in their minds. And so they really don't take time to read over anything. If their numbers are okay, then they're good with it. If their other partners have already signed off or are going to sign off on it, they're good. They're good. All right. Here's just a continuation of the preliminary report, just going over the owner's policy and the premium, and just, I guess, how it's vested and will be with the county. And of course, we have an exhibit A, just like we do on our residential packages, where they have a legal description of the property. All right, so this is just general exceptions. Again, nothing that you have to necessarily go into detail with. This is just about the taxing authority. So this has to do with the taxes for the commercial property. So same thing, they want to make sure there's no liens or judgments, no public records, anything on there, no encroachments, meaning no issues with, other businesses over the property line, or, this is my side, that's my side, that type of thing. So they just want to make sure that applies to them as well. This section here actually gives the unpaid taxes, what's showing. So typically, obviously, when you're doing the selling, that buyer from that day forward is responsible for whatever taxes are remaining. Now, anything in the rears or that hasn't been paid typically is going to be paid by the seller, unless they agree to do something outside of that. All right, looks like there's easements. Yeah. So that's just for utilities. So we're good on that. Recording dates. So none of this is of importance. Liens and assessment. So is for the owners association for the property. Vehicle ingress. Ooh, okay. Big words. All right, here we go. This is going to be the deed. So again, this is going to similar to our refis, showing how it's going to be vested and whose name is going to be vested and who's the trustee, the beneficiary, all that good stuff, and the amount. Let's see here. Yep. So that's all on that one. And so get down to the bottom here. So this here is the warranty deed. So this is just like you'll see on a refi, on a purchase seller packet. You're going to have a warranty deed of some sort, or you may see it as a mortgage, depending on your state. So again, the warranty deed, this is the seller signing off ownership of the home to the new owners, or the property, excuse me, let me say that. So this is, again, similar to what you'll see on a refi packet. So you again have whoever's in front of you sign their name, and again, for good measure, doesn't hurt to have that manager verbiage on the end just to make sure everybody's covered. And so this one you will acknowledge, just like we do on anything else. Now, obviously, I don't live in Oregon, so make sure you strike through it. And I've gotten myself in the habit, even though I hate it, but I do initial like everything now, because I've ran into issues where someone initial, some don't. And I think I told you guys, in the state of Hawaii, they want your initials and then NP for notary public, as if they don't know who you are. Kind of weird. So make sure, if you're not in that particular states, just you strike through and make sure you initial that so you have no issues on the back end and post closing. All right. So again, I got another exhibit. Just giving some legal info there on the property. So again, this is nothing that they are concerned of. All right, so this is the assignment and assumptions of lease. So essentially what this is like, it's kind of like the leasing. So again, my assumptions are correct that looks like they're going to keep the business at that location. And so they're now going to be leasing that property from the new owner of this. So this is what covers that section for them. So it's just pretty much like a rental agreement that they have. And I can't remember. Yeah. So signatures are on the second page. Yep. So each manager would sign off on that. And then the new owner, their president would sign off on that as well. All right, and this is just a notice. The purchase agreement. Yeah. So this lets them know about the purchase agreement and who it was assigned to. So I think this one might be more of an Oregon thing, because I don't think I remember seeing this one on the others that I've done. Yep. So they just would fill out the date and then they would sign. So the buy, again, that's going to be the company. And just so happens she wasn't signing on behalf of the whole company. So this one we didn't have to sign. We skipped through this one. And this also here, it covers that 1031 exchange that we talked about before, in case, someone's wondering what that is. Now, this one you're going to see in commercial as well as your residential seller packets. So this is just a certification of non-foreign status. So they're just attesting that they are of U.S. citizenship, or at least legal residency with a tax ID or social. So this one here, I believe they just fill out their address. And then again, everybody signs. So as you guys can see, they're not real difficult unless there's questions that pop up as far as what's what. But typically, again, they're going to know exactly what they're signing off on. Okay. So it shouldn't be really any questions that pop up, but at least I want you guys to have this in your possession, just so you have something to go back and look at if you happen to get called for a commercial closing. All right, and then again, we have the substitute 1099-S. So businesses have to have this filled out as well as us. So this is again for tax purposes, because this gets reported obviously to the IRS as income, because they are walking away with quite a bit of money. And I believe this one she did not sign as well. Yeah, so they have a separate signature, I believe, page that the business has. So yep, so she signed just her name, and I believe someone else back at the company would sign on behalf of the company. All right, and so this is the seller's exempt status. So if there's any exemptions that are due, depending on certain status that they have with the state as far as the tax withholdings, you will find a form like this in the packet where they will elect what that exemption is. Okay. If anybody's ever done one for California, theirs is extremely confusing. It's about 3 or 4 pages. And if they have exemptions, they have, literally, no joke, on the second page, they have a worksheet allowing them to work out and calculate subtract, add, multiply what their taxes should be. So for this one, it's a little easier because Oregon doesn't do all that. And so I don't believe she signed this one. Yeah, I think this one was signed back in Oregon. So they just indicate what their status is, if it's sole prop or if it's a trust, limited liability company, so on and so forth. So as I told you guys, this one is not long, but I wanted to make sure you guys at least see it. So you are a little more comfortable with, and if you have to do a commercial packet. So does anybody have questions about the commercial packet? No questions? Okay. All right, cool. So I ran across this, guys. I can't remember. I got this in an email from some signer service that I don't think I've ever done or worked with, but I thought this was interesting. This was a case out of California. And this was where there was some fraud done, and they actually took the person as well as the notary to court over this. So this is the actual legal filing that they sent, or that I got or had sent to me, kind of going over it. But I'm going to pull up the article, okay, that I had. Pull that up here. And I'll just kind of read that to you guys because I thought it was quite interesting. All right, guys. All right, so this is, I guess, was this a North American Title Company versus, I can't say, Gagacian? Okay. So as you can see, the title company is the plaintiff, and this individual, Gagacian, is the defendant. So um, all these big words, Lord have mercy, it's worse than the Bible. All right. So states here, let's see, we can get down to, I think, the good part of it. Actually, all right, I'll just start at the top here. So Steyer, Loneworth, yeah, that's all the companies here. Los Angeles, okay. All right, so this gives him a description of what we're supposed to do. So the job of a notary is to verify that the person's executing a document is in fact the person who is supposed to be executing that document. If the notary is neglectful in this job, the notary is civilly liable for the damages. So I believe, if I remember correctly, what happened on this one is, I believe the ID turned out to be fake, and it was a fraud thing, but the notary went about their job as far as verifying that customer or that person. And so luckily in California, states here that California has, the California law nevertheless sets a presumptive safe harbor for notaries. So you may want to check with your state, whatever you're in, to see if this is something that your state has as well. So it says, is pertinent here, the notary is presented with a driver's license issued by the Department of Motor Vehicles, or DMV, that is current or issued within the preceding 5 years, so on and so forth. If there's an absence of the information, evidence, or other circumstances that would lead a reasonable person to believe that the person appearing before the notary is not the individual he or she claims to be. Okay. So what they did is the courts kind of came in and protected that notary using this safe harbor law, which I have never heard of, because they were presented what the notary perceived to be was a valid ID. Okay, but because the deal went bad, it looks like the title company was trying to sue to get, you know, I guess reimbursements for this fraud case using their E&O. But I thought it was just quite interesting that this popped up. And again, I've never heard of the safe harbor law, and I'm going to check and see if that's something that my state has, just in case, because I mean, we're all not trained on, being able to detect fake IDs or not. That's just not part of our job. At least me, I can't feel and tell if it's fake, if it is, valid and not expired. If the person in the ID looks it and it feels like it, I'll have to just assume that, it is legit. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And if you want, I can send this to you if anybody wants to kind of read through it, just to kind of, in their downtime. It's very, very interesting. So you can see here, the person says that they applied for 2 loans and nearly $4 million. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So it gives the whole story, but I won't bore you guys with that. But I thought it was interesting that they actually had a case where a notary was actually sued and taken to court. So, all right, cool. Do you guys have any questions for me about the whole loan signing, how I set up my day, how the business is going as a whole, whatever? I want to be an open book for you guys, because as I've stated before, when I started out doing this, I had nobody to lean on to ask questions. So I want to make sure that I answer whatever questions you guys have, because I want you to have, realistic expectations in doing this role. And you could drop it in the chat too if you don't feel like speaking up.
Is business still steady? I'm beginning to see like I know the home market was really booming. It slowed down just a little bit. Is business still real steady for you?
Define steady. What do you mean by steady, as far as
Consistent, or are you seeing a slowdown in your work that you would normally work, consider business?
I have seen a slowdown.
Mhm.
I have seen a slowdown. So where I would have normally 5, 6 a day, it's slowed down to a good day, a good busy day now might be 5, but average day maybe 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And that definitely is from the hike in rates. When that happened, I think a lot of these lenders, they emptied out their pipeline. So I think I told you guys in January was my lowest month I think I've ever had. And it was like, what the heck? I think that month I only had 6,600. Which I know some people probably like, that's a lot. Monica says I got spoiled, and I probably did. I'm not gonna lie to you. I probably got spoiled because on average it would be 8.5 to 10, just depending. But that's what kind of got the alarm bells going for me. Is like, you hear it on TV a lot about them saying, rates are going up, it's slowing down, but that's when I kind of saw it. Now, February, it picked back up. And I think that's where people started to work their deals and trying to, get these rates locked in so they didn't lose customers and so they can make their money. Because they know that, rates only last for so long when they're locked. And, if they happen to go up, customers will walk. So now I'm seeing a lot of HELOCs. Have one today, Bank of America. People are not touching their first. They've decided to kind of leave their rates where they are, and they're just doing HELOCs to get that cash out. Now, with me saying that, I'm not telling you guys not to continue to press on, but just being realistic. Right now it is slow, and I mean, like anything, it has its ups and downs, ebbs and flows. So I think it'll probably pick back up because people are always going to refi, no matter what. It just may not be at a great volume that we've seen over the last 2 years. But great question. Who else? What other questions you guys have? No questions? I am an open book. Okay. Well, if you think of anything, let me know. I have no problem sharing with you guys. Again, if it's, how I set up my day, I tell you guys not to endorse any particular company, but I've used Notary Gadget for the last couple of years, and I don't think I could have survived if I did not use that software. It's $10 a month, but what it gives you is a lot. As far as syncing it to your calendar, what else? Also, it gives you profit and loss. It lets you see your expenses. You can input expenses, and it itemizes everything, and it makes nice little reports for you. So, if you're having to prove income, they have a lot of tools to help you do that. If you have to send invoices, it has options where you can send invoices directly from Notary Gadget as well. So if you don't use it, it is definitely a good tool to check out. So again, I think it's $10 a month, and it's been well worth it for me. Help me, stay organized and kind of visualize what I've got going on. All right, last chance. Anybody else? Okay. Now, how would you guys like to see? I want to show you guys how I go through a signing. Just, I've kind of showed you guys how the packets are lined up and what's in them, but I want you guys to kind of see how I approach it. That way you kind of have an idea of what I do. Yes, please. Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So what I will do next week, I'll be the notary. And if someone at that time wants to volunteer to be the customer, and we'll go through a refi pack, and I'll show you guys how I approach it, each page, how I explain it. I've recently had a young lady who reached out for me to mentor her, and she wanted me to take her with me to a closing. And I checked, but most companies forbid that. They don't want you to bring anybody with you. So sometimes it's hard to see somebody in action who's done that. So I want to make sure I do that for you guys, so you guys have a grasp of how this works. And at that time, make sure you ask me whatever questions you want to ask, so I can make sure that you guys are fully prepared, because I want y'all to go out there and be comfortable. I want you to make a lot of mistakes, because mistakes will cost you money. Okay. Well, guys, if you don't mind, if you can type in for me and let me know if this packet was helpful for you guys. If you can
I
give
have
me.
a question.
Sure.
And I came kind of late, but since you were doing commercial loans, do they generally take longer than loan signing take longer than
No. Yeah, that's why we're done so early.
oh. Okay.
Yeah, this particular one was like 31 pages. So, and that's not including the label they sent. So
Oh.
yeah, they're not long unless now now let me tell you, I think I did one that was from California, and shockingly, that probably was maybe 40 or 50 pages. Just 'cause California has a lot of regulations, which I hate, but whatever. But yeah, so they definitely do not take that long. And I wish I could figure out how to track down these companies to do commercial closings, because I do that in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, because it's not a lot of overhead and you get paid.
They tend to pay more than regular.
Sometimes they can pay more. Now, this particular one I did was through BankServe, which is, you know, one of my favorites. But they pay, I want to say, because this one was a fax back as well. So I think it was like 120. So I mean, for 20 minutes of your time, 30 pages, and you just scan it. Yeah, I do that for 120.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they're not bad. And like I was telling them, I don't know if you missed it, but typically with commercial packets, your signer knows what they are signing. So there's really hardly any questions other than where do I sign? Like I think for hers, it probably took 12 minutes, maybe. Because she was busy and wanted to get on to whatever she was doing here in Nashville. So yeah. No skin.
Wow.
Yeah, no skin off my back. Awesome. Yeah. And if you guys don't mind, you go ahead and drop in the chat there, 1 to 10. Just let us know if it was helpful for you guys to see this packet here. And if anybody else has questions, just let me know. Awesome. I appreciate you guys. So yeah, so we're getting done just a tad bit early tonight again, because it's just not a long packet. So I don't know if I told you, my dad's a pastor and my wife's a preacher. So I'm not like them and want to carry on and just keep talking just for the sake of time. So I'm gonna let you guys enjoy the rest of your week and your evening. And again, make sure you guys come back next Monday so you can see how I run through my packets, and hopefully I'll help you guys out. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You too.